All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Pet Desk's monthly webinar series. Today, we're presenting to you Rubber Not Glue, Awakening the Resilience Within, Compassion Fatigue, Burnout, and Moral Distress. We've got Dr. Sarah Wooten here today as our presenter, and she'll be introducing herself in just a minute. So first, if you're not familiar with Pet Desk, welcome. And to those of you who are familiar with Pet Desk, welcome. We're a veterinary client engagement tool empowering over 3,000 clinics across North America. So if you ever find yourself asking, what would it look like if my staff had more time to focus on care for our patients? Or how do I retain more clients and keep them happy? Well, Pet Desk can help with all of that. So we're going to have a lot of fun today, and I sure had a lot of fun planning this with Dr. Wooten, so I'm really looking forward to this presentation. If you have any questions or comments, down at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a Q&A feature and a chat feature down below, so feel free to use that. I'll be monitoring it throughout. We will have that time for Q&A at the end, so if you have any questions, you can ask Dr. Wooten anything that you like. And also, Dr. Wooten had graciously put together a nice handout that you might have received just before the webinar. And if you did not receive that email or you don't know where that link is, I'm going to put it in the chat right now so everybody can have it. It will help guide you throughout this webinar, and it'll also help you after the webinar. So if you all can click on that link there, you'll have access to that PDF. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Sarah Wooten. Thank you.
Hi, Judy. Thank you so much for having me. Welcome to everybody who is joining us for this next hour on some really heavy topics, honestly. Originally, when I was slated to do this, I was going to talk about imposter syndrome. And then Judy came back and said, hey, Dr. Wooten, a lot of our people are asking to talk about these topics. Can you do that? And I said, sure, I can try that. So what you're about to experience is my best effort at a completely new presentation that I created just for you on these big, heavy topics of compassion fatigue, burnout, and moral distress. And more importantly than that, we're going to be talking about resilience, because resilience is what you want to focus on. You don't want to be focusing on the problems, you want to be focusing on the solutions. So hopefully in this next time that we have together, I will be able to give you some things that you can take back to your team and to yourself as well to make yourselves happier and more resilient. Just a quick thing about me, veterinarian, 16 years of practice, graduated from Davis, been speaking in the veterinary continuing education space for about 6 years now. And what I love is helping people like you unleash your best selves. So hopefully we can get some of that going today. So I always like to know what to expect. So I always share that with you guys as well. Number one, we're going to be talking briefly about these big monsters, loving signals from your soul: compassion fatigue, moral distress, and occupational burnout. And so we're going to be talking about them a little bit. We're going to talk about the relationship between them. And then more importantly, we're going to be talking about how to approach these things. How do we work with these things? How do we understand these things and then transmute them to something that's actually beneficial to us so we can continue to do our jobs that at our very root level, we do love our jobs, right? So we're going to have a two-pronged approach. We're going to have strategies for the individual, and I have 3, and then we have strategies for your organization, because as I understand, a fair number of you are practice managers. And so you're probably jumping on here to say, help, my staff is dying on the vine. What do I do? Right? So hopefully I can give you some strategies for that. I'm going to be sharing with you some ideas on resilience that may challenge your current paradigm. And what do I mean about that? It may challenge the current way you view resilience, mental health, interactions with your staff and clients, things like that, that may be beyond your current mindset. I'm hoping to expand your mindset in this in this webinar, we're going to be tilling the mind. We're going to be tilling your minds, and we're going to be planting seeds of awareness that I hope will be a harvest for you of resilience and goodness in the year to come. I hopefully also you will be a changed person by the end of this presentation, not the same person you are right now, right? Somebody different, somebody expanded, a better version of yourself. And so I'm hoping to share with you an increased sense of self-responsibility, self-awareness, awareness of what's going on inside yourself, and then ultimately self-empowerment, how to help yourself. At the end, we have about 45 minutes of a presentation, and I need to make sure I keep an eye on my time. There is going to be a Q&A hot seat. So I want you to be thinking as we go along, any questions that you have for me. I can't promise that I have all the answers for you, but I will do my best. And so if something pops up for you, maybe pop it in the chat, save it for the end. But really do ask your questions at the end, because we are going to be reserving some time for that. And sometimes some of the answers come from you guys, not necessarily from me, not the expert here, right? I'm just facilitating this discussion. And then, yes, you may experience some what I call colorful vernacular. Hey, you hired Dr. Wooten. You know what you got into when you hired me for this job, and I'm going to be me. So things might get colorful in this next 45 minutes. I don't know. But if it shows up, you already know what to expect. Okay, what not to expect. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about our problems. Hopefully I can get through that in 5 to 10 minutes, because as I said already, the more you get what you focus on, right? And so we want to focus on solutions. I'm also not going to be sharing a lot of statistics with you. I had looked up statistics, and I had actually made slides, and I looked at them and I was like, we all know what's going on. We all know how we feel. We don't need statistics to show us that. So I threw them out. Do not expect to see peer-reviewed anything or a mental health expert. Hello, veterinarian, right? I am not a psychologist. I am going to be sharing to you from my heart what I have learned along my journey, and also what I have researched from a companion field, and that is the field of nursing, where this has been studied extensively. Also, I do not have your missing appliances. I am sorry. I wish I could give them to you. I too am waiting for a stove that I ordered last December. I love 2021. I also do not have solutions to the current staffing shortage. I am not Dr. Strange, and I am sure the whole human race at this point would like to have an answer for the current staffing shortage, because it ain't just the veterinary industry that's experiencing it. So talk to your local government representative, okay? And then lastly, there are no magic bullets for this, my friends. This will take willingness, time, intention, courage, and commitment to yourself and to your people, right? We have a great opportunity to build a new sense of mental wellness in this profession, and we are the people who are being called to that. Yay, us! Yay, it's so great to be called, right? So now that you know what to expect and know what not to expect, there's just a couple of things I need from you. All right, so I do need you to print out that companion handout. There is a lot of information in there that is ancillary to what we will be discussing today. And there are some action steps, there's some definitions. There's a lot of stuff in there that you are going to need once we are done with this, because this is just 45 minutes and I'm not going to be solving anything in 45 minutes. I am starting the conversation. I am starting the journey, and it's up to you to continue it. And that companion handout will be important for you along your journey. I also need for you to be open and curious about some of the things I'm talking about, and a willingness. I just need a willingness to be involved in this, right? So many of us walk around with minds that look like this guy, right? I already know that. I'm not gonna learn anything. That's not helping us anymore. So I need your openness and your curiosity and your willingness. Okay. And then lastly, interaction. I'm looking at some of your comments. I love color too, Karen Peck. Thank you very much. So that's right? I need you to be like Captain Picard and engage, right? So when you have questions, throw them in the chat. When you have comments, throw them in the chat. If you are interacting with somebody, throw something up that's kind of hard, right? Surround that person with some empathy and support. We are all in this together. We're all here to help each other. And this is going to be fun, I promise. So before we get into this, I want you, this might be awkward if you're with other people, but I don't care at this point. I want you to take a deep breath with me, and I want you to release it with an ah. Okay, you ready? Okay, here we go. Ah. Let's do it again. Release it with an ah. Okay, yes, that feels good. All right, so before we jump into this, I need to hear from you. So Judy, do you have some true or false questions for our audience?
I do indeed. So let me launch this poll. All right, and launching it in 3, 2, and 1.
Oh, let me move that out of my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about this. There are 5 questions for you to answer. I am not sure how to answer these, but okay. All right. So clients can be overly emotional. Oh, wow. Oh, true. Okay. Clients can be irrational. 27. Oh, true. Okay. All right. Clients can blame you for their problem. Oh my God. What is going on here? Managing employees can feel like adult babysitting. Oh, friends. Oh, friends. Oh, friends. I got to pray for you. Everyone is crazy right now? Oh, that one, okay, we've got a little more balance in that one. Yes, but yeah, we're noticing something here. We got a couple of 100%, we got a couple of 97%. Awesome. All right, yeah. So if you're still going through that poll and answering some questions, great. But for most of you, I suspect when you come home from work, this is something that might be showing up in your space, right? And yes, you do deserve a reward, because I have had some interactions lately and I'm just like, what is going on? Who are these people? What, am I surrounded by programmed robots and everybody's angry? What the heck? So yes. Now I did pull this slide off of the CDC. I know I promised you no statistics, but I did pull this slide because I thought that it was impactful. And this is from last June, and it was a mental health survey of however many thousand people that they surveyed. But what they noticed is that 40% back in June reported struggling with mental health or substance abuse, right? We've got problems with anxiety and depression. We've got trauma and stressor-related disorder symptoms. We've got people who are drinking to cope. I'll tell you what, I have drank to cope with this, okay? And we've got some people considering suicide, right? So it's not just veterinary professionals. It is the whole freaking human race right now. And we really are being given a chance and an opportunity to see what's up and how can we help ourselves. So in this talk, originally I was going to just focus on resilience. So I do have a couple slides in here on resilience, because resilience is an incredible quality. It's been defined as the ability of an individual to recondition and rebuild a steady psychological and physical state when they're challenged with major adverse life events. But I think it's more than that. If we let it, resilience is a learnable trait, something we can learn that allows us to evolve through adversity. Yeah, no one wants to transform through adversity, but here we all are, right? Resilience moves us to become more of who we truly are. And it enables us to find the resources that lie buried deep within each one of us. They're already there, right? Resilience also forces us to have a larger perspective of ourselves, other people, and the situation. It's awesome, because the more you call upon resilience and develop it in your life, the more you can actually trust that it will carry you through whatever you're facing. And it's also awesome because it not only benefits you, especially you if you are a leader in your practice, it positively impacts all of the people around you, even the really grumpy ones. It's contagious. It's totally true. The challenging part about resilience is that in order to know whether you have a good amount of it or not, you have to go through the hard stuff to find out. And resilience requires adversity to develop. Much like the pressure creates a diamond from the lump of coal, or how a phoenix rises from the ashes, or how the repeated pounding on molten steel creates a sword, our resilience is forged in the fires of difficult circumstances, like right now. The miraculous thing is that if you let yourself be molded and transformed through these difficult situations, and I'm speaking from experience right now, you unleash strength and gifts that you may not even have known that you have. And while we really like to hang out in our comfort zones, we rarely grow in them, right? So I believe that the universe sometimes makes us uncomfortable in this external environment, in this game that we call life, right? So that we will move and we will grow. And our level of resilience dictates whether we become a diamond or we get crushed into dust, right? So how do you know if you don't have resilience? Well, I pulled this list of symptoms of low resilience off of psychology.com. And they all look like things that I have experienced multiple times in the past 18 months. I'll tell you what, irritability, overreacting to normal stressors, easily depressed or frequent crying, poor memory, moodiness, difficulty sleeping, I'm being clingy. Oh my gosh, I have been all of these. So if you have or are experiencing these right now, don't feel bad, right? They're just signals that you need to take care of yourself and get some help, right? Loving signals, that's all they are. And the good news is resilience. I've told you already, it's a learnable trait. You can learn it, right? So in this talk, we are going to focus on 3 things that are really challenging our resilience right now in this profession: occupational burnout, moral distress, compassion fatigue. These things, if we continue to ignore them or just push them away as not as important, they are going to kill us. They're going to kill us, right? And they definitely interfere with our ability to be resilient in the face of challenges, right? So the first one, occupational burnout, that's the big one, right? That's the big guy that we want to avoid, right? That's the one that we talk about the most because that's kind of the end of the line. That's considered a organizational issue, and we'll talk more about that. I think it has individual factors as well, but that's just my personal opinion. So we'll talk about that as well. And then the other 2, moral distress and compassion fatigue, are considered to be more individual issues. And I learned about all 3 of these guys from doing a lot of research in the nursing profession. So unfortunately, there is more research done than there used to be about these particular issues in veterinary medicine, but not as much as I would like, obviously. There's a ton in nursing. Nurses deal with this stuff day in and day out on levels that I don't even know how they do it, right? So it's high enough for them that they have been forced to find some solutions. So I'm going to share some tools from the nursing industry that I picked up from the nursing.com and all of their studies, and you can look it all up yourself. But again, we can stand to do some work in this for ourselves. So let's talk about these 3 guys. Not too long, remember, we're going to talk more about solutions. So, okay. First one, moral distress. Knowing the right thing to do, but being in a situation in which it's nearly impossible to do it. This term was coined back in 1984. It's real. This is real, okay? It was first identified in nurses. Now it's identified among all healthcare professionals and psychologists and social workers and chaplains. This is something that happens when the internal environment of our world, of veterinary professionals, our values, our perceived obligations are incompatible with the needs and prevailing views of the external work environment, or more often the needs and views of the clients, okay? So moral distress happens when you put aside your own values and you carry out an action that you believe to be wrong, which threatens the authenticity of your own moral self. This actually can be cumulative. Yeah. So, and it's called, when it accumulates on you, it's called moral residue. And so repeated episodes of moral distress that aren't resolved, they accumulate as moral residue, which can cause veterinary professionals to experience burnout and leave their jobs or even their careers. Moral residue is long lasting, and it's powerfully integrated into your views of yourself and your thoughts. And it's this aspect of moral distress, the residue that remains buried in your energy field, that can be really damaging to you and to your career. And it can negatively impact your patient care. It can impact your staff morale, obviously. And this is worse when there's morally distressing episodes that happen over and over and over. So in the ancient yogic tradition, this unfinished energy is called a samskara. If any of you are yogis, you know about this. And samskara is a Sanskrit word that means impression. And in the yogic teachings, it's considered one of the most important influences affecting your life. A samskara is a blockage, an impression from the past. It's unfinished energy that can actually end up running your life if you don't know it. And when you run up against these distressing events that are in conflict with your moral views, you often don't know what to do, right? So you resist the experience. And then according to the yogis, the energy gets stored in your heart as blocked energy. And then when something happens that reminds you of a past distressing event, that samskara gets stimulated and causes you problems. That's moral residue. Interesting, right? So moral distress affects both individuals and organizations. And in individuals, it can produce symptoms that are emotional, such as frustration, anger, anxiety, guilt, sadness, powerlessness, and withdrawal. Physical symptoms. It can cause physical symptoms: muscle aches, headaches, heart palpitation, neck pain, diarrhea, vomiting. What? And psychological symptoms: depression, emotional exhaustion, loss of self-worth, nightmares, reduced job satisfaction, depersonalization of your clients. That's terrible. Let's not talk about that anymore. Next of these little monsters, loving signals from our soul, is compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is defined as the absorbing of another person's traumatic material. It's a unique phenomenon that impacts those who work with other people who are impacted by trauma, grief, bereavement, and stressful circumstances. Hello, that's our clients, right? Although the experience of our clients did not happen to us, the other person's painful experience is extremely felt. I don't know if you've felt that before, but man, oh man, I have felt that. I've come out of exam rooms like so close to tears, and then I carry that with me, it's crazy. Common sign of compassion fatigue is a withdrawal from social connections. This can be obvious when you neglect your friendships or your relationships, and you start to feel disconnected from others, or you disassociate from others, or you experience a sense of numbness in your personal or your professional life. And there's a whole list of symptoms associated with this too. I feel like a drug commercial. Okay, you ready? Mood swings, detachment, addiction, anxiety, depression, lowered productivity, physical symptoms. Oh my God. Then there's more. There's the physical symptoms: insomnia, exhaustion, fatigue, changes in appetite, digestive issues, headaches. Holy crap, right? The thing is you cannot give of yourself over and over and over, right? Part of compassion fatigue in us stems from the fact that we have not educated ourselves as a profession on the different types of empathy that you can use and what is more effective as a healer in someone who is constantly exposed to other people's grief, trauma, or other strong emotions, right? Empathy is often confused for a lack of boundaries. And if you don't have good boundaries, your day, my friends, can look like this.
We have a very full schedule today, so I hope you ate your Wheaties.
I'm kind of in a bad mood.
Oh, what is wrong?
Well, Rick lost his job and we bought those 2 cars that we really, really liked and payments are due.
I am so sorry.
Well, if I made more money like you, we'd be fine.
The good news is that it's completely treatable with medication. So I wrote down a breakdown of the monthly medication costs and follow-up. It's right here.
Oh my gosh, how am I gonna afford that? I'm on a fixed income.
Oh,
Can you discount it?
oh my God. Did you see this? Another veterinarian committed suicide. What is wrong with our profession? I'm sad.
That is a terrible story. I don't know what's wrong. I'm sad too.
The good news is we can save most dogs with treatment.
That sounds expensive.
Well, it is an investment in your pet's health, and I did detail all the costs of treatment right here.
I just spent $4,000 on this dog. I can't afford that.
I'm sorry.
Are you gonna let my dog die? I'm just gonna have to take you home and watch you die.
Oh, okay, wait. You know what? Let me look about discounting the costs. And, you know, you could always just relinquish the dog to me. Hey, Annie, I'm home.
Hi, Annie.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, you know.
The toilet overflowed today. Isabel's project is due tomorrow. She hasn't started it though. And the dog threw up all over the kitchen. So can you kind of help me out with that, please?
Okay, my friends, that is what your day can look like without boundaries, right? With a lot of people putting what I call emotional monkeys on you, because chances are you are a caring, big-hearted overgiver, and we are easy targets, right? So I'm going to come back to those emotional monkeys later, right? But if you can see, they had monkeys all over them, and we're going to talk about how to demonkify ourselves, okay? So now we're going to talk about how these 2 guys, moral distress and compassion fatigue, both of them, with both of these guys, the individual tends to still like their job, right? And these tend to come on acutely, very quickly. If you look in your companion handout, there's definitions, and it will tell you moral distress and compassion fatigue tend to be an individual issue, and they tend to come on quickly, right? Now, moral distress can accumulate and become moral residue, but these guys are like, you're okay, and then you're not okay, right? I tend to call these guys early warning signs. They're signals that something is out of alignment, and you need to do some investigating, some intervention, or some personal or emotional maintenance. Otherwise, these 2 things will contribute to occupational burnout. And while these are mostly considered individual issues, how they are handled by both the individual experiencing this and the organization, how the organization handles this, contributes to whether the individual recovers, burns out, or develops more physical manifestations related to unresolved mental or emotional issues associated with the job. Okay. All right, that's a lot. I'm going to stop my screen share for just 1 second. Make sure I can get back in. There it is. Okay. And I have a little piece of paper here that I want to share with you guys now that I see you on here. Okay, hold on. Technology, and sometimes I don't get along. So hopefully that's not backwards, but I made some equations because I had to think about this for a little bit, right? So I put these equations in your companion handout because I was like, how are all these things working together, and how do we start to address these? So basically you have compassion fatigue and or moral distress, and then you add what I call a toxic or stressful workplace, and then you can get occupational burnout. I apologize if this is backwards. Then you can have compassion fatigue plus or minus moral distress plus a whole host of individual factors. And friends, I'm not going to go into them because there's a whole lot, because we are all individuals, but they're in your handout. Okay. So if you add those together, you can get to occupational burnout, but we don't want that. I argue that a toxic workplace, if you stay in it long enough, that'll burn you out. I also argue that if you don't deal with your individual factors, that'll burn you out. So we've got a lot of things going on here, and I am glad that it is forward. Thank you for letting me know, Robin. And where, oh, good, Justine, you got that. Okay, so that's my equations that we need to be thinking about as we move forward into more solutions. Okay, all right. So let me put my screen share back on and let's get to it. So now let's talk about the big guy. Oh, this is taking too long. I got to get to solutions. Job burnout. This comes on, this takes a longer time to come on. And by the time this hits, they don't like their job anymore. This is a special type of work-related stress. It's a state of physical or emotional exhaustion that also involves a sense of reduced accomplishment and loss of your personal identity. Ugh. It's not a medical diagnosis, however, and some experts believe that other conditions such as depression are behind burnout. Researchers point that individual factors such as your personality traits and your family life influence who experiences burnout. Whatever the cause, it can affect your physical and your mental health. So consider to know how you've got it. First of all, the symptoms: becoming cynical or critical at work, dragging yourself to work and having trouble getting started, becoming irritable or impatient with coworkers, customers, or clients, lacking the energy to be consistently productive, finding it hard to concentrate at work, lacking satisfaction from your work-related achievements, feeling disillusioned about your job, using food, drugs, or alcohol to feel better or simply not to feel, changes in sleep habits, feeling troubled by unexplained stomach or bowel or headaches or other physical complaints. Oh my God. If you answered yes to any of those, you might be experiencing job burnout. But you should also consider talking to a doctor or a mental health provider because these symptoms can be related to health conditions such as depression. Okay, so now, Judy, if you wouldn't mind throwing up another question for us since we've learned about these things.
Definitely launching right now.
Okay, so this question is, do you feel like you have some aspect of these guys? Moral distress, compassion, fatigue, or burnout? Yes, I feel like I have it. Yes. Yeah. Oh, we've already got answers. Oh, my heart. Okay.
Yeah, they come in fast.
Holy cow, there they come. Friends, we need an intervention. Ah! Okay, hold on. While you guys are throwing that in there, I'm going to keep going, right? Because obviously we need some solutions here, all right? So I'm going to give you a two-pronged approach here. We are going to do solutions for the individual. And since it seems like a lot of you, half of you, are experiencing some combination of these lovely little things, we're going to talk about solutions for you, okay? And we're going to talk about two broad ones and then one I got from the nursing. Oh no, move, get out of my space. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just sharing the results right here, just so you know, I ended the poll.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Judy. You are awesome. Okay. So we're going to talk about solutions for the individual, for you, my friend, because this is the time that you're investing in you. And then we're going to talk We're going to do 3 of those. And then we're going to have in that, you can tease out your solutions for your organization, because you need to make sure your organization is supportive, right? We don't want to add a toxic, stressful workplace to, people who are already on the edge. And in your handout, there's a whole page of organizational ideas, right? I may not get to those in this presentation because, again, I don't have very much time. And I feel like I really need to address individual factors, okay? And you're probably going to roll your eyes at me because some of these things you've heard before. But again, we're planting these into your awareness, and I'm hoping that they will grow over time. Okay. Friends, let's talk about self-care, okay? Because if you don't have self-care right, the rest of this information doesn't help very much at all. Emotional and physical fatigue is a common element of both compassion fatigue, right? For many people, healthcare providers, taking time to engage in your self-care can be an impactful home remedy. And if you beautiful people are like most of my audiences, there are probably many overgivers, because that's what this profession tends to attract. And you might be thinking a couple of things. 1, that sounds selfish. 2, I can't possibly take care of myself first because everything and everybody else needs my attention. 3, I don't have time. 4, I don't have money. Okay, those are the 4 main excuses I usually get from my audiences. So I used to think that way too, right? Totally there with you for a long time. And then after a series of unfortunate events and a lot of soul searching and getting tired of things how they were and studying successful people, I realized that self-care is not selfish. You've heard the phrase, you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? I mean, what if we went around like literally trying to pour into other people's cups out of an empty cup? They would go, what are you doing? You're crazy. You are a crazy, crazy person. But that's what we're doing all the time when we're pouring into these other people and we have nothing inside of ourselves to give. All of these excuses we use to not practice self-care are disempowering lies that most people have been conditioned to believe since your feet hit this planet. Not kidding. Think about it. How do people respond when you ask them how they are? They go, oh, I'm fine. I'm busy. I'm tired, but I'm fine, right? We love to sell our virtue by telling people how busy and tired we are. How many of your parents modeled healthy self-care when you were growing up? My parents worked 5 days a week, did housework and yard work on Saturday, then went to church all day on Sunday. They were exhausted, fried out people, and they would come home from work every day and zone out in front of the TV until they went to bed, and then get up the next day and do it all over again. Our well-meaning caregivers taught us to wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. And many of us play that programming out day after day after day, wearing ourselves thin from trying to live a schedule in a life that does not let us thrive. No wonder our resilience is in the toilet. Self-care is a survival skill, my friends. And if you're going to be resilient, you're going to have to take really good care of yourself. And if you don't, your body and your mind will continue to remind you in louder and louder and louder ways. Okay? Self-care does not look the same for everybody. And it's not about just going to the spa, right? For me, it was about nurturing my physical, mental, emotional health, gaining awareness about my habits and patterns that I have that aren't self-supportive, and doing my best to change those patterns. Self-care for you might look like getting your finances in order, getting a checkup from the doctor, or going to the dentist. Maybe it's giving up harmful substances that hurt your beautiful meat skeleton that you're driving, right? Or looking in the mirror and no longer picking it apart and appreciating it instead. It can look like drinking enough water, 2 liters a day, my friends. It can look like interrupting negative thought patterns that keep you in a negative mental space, giving yourself a break from social media or the 24-hour news cycle that just wants to grab your attention and manipulate you with fear, right? Maybe it looks like refusing to beat up on yourself when you make a mistake or a bad choice, or refusing to base your identity or your self-esteem on what other people think of you, because it's your opinion about you that matters. It's how you take your power back. It's about creating your best self and unleashing your potential so you can feel fulfilled with your time here and be all that you can be, right? So resilient people put this in their calendar every single day and they know that they are worth it. It doesn't have to be crazy, right? It can be getting up 30 minutes early in the morning so you can stretch and yoga and meditate or whatever, right? The thing is, you have to decide that you're worth it. And sometimes that is the hardest part because we've been conditioned to think otherwise. And if you've routinely been in the habit of putting yourself last, if you start to put yourself first, expect pushback from all the humans around you, right? And if you don't have disposable income to do this, no problem. Start small, YouTube yoga, time in nature, learn to meditate, make a budget, take a salt bath, learn how to breathe, right? There's lots of things you can do that are free. How about refuse to join in the negativity of others and instead redirect your thoughts to something you're grateful for, right? Lots of things. And you may also wrestle with the feeling of guilt that you should be doing something else, cleaning something or watching news or making money or something like that, right? That's your conditioning. And you're going to have to go, nope, I know what I want to do for myself. So if you are feeling overwhelmed by your work or your employees, their work as a caregiver, and you feel that compassion fatigue is affecting your life negatively, it's also important to reach out for professional help. Okay. So again, not a mental health expert. If you are experiencing these things, get help. I've been in tons of therapy, my friends. And also just a reminder that the holidays are coming and you're going to be tempted to get wrapped up in all of the chaos. Don't. Choose peace this year. Choose yourself. Choose calm, right? Choose it. All right. And that's just a quick reminder on that. So that's the first one, self-care. The second big general thing that I think if we implement self-care, and this other guy is really going to help us at the individual level, mindfulness. Oh yes, we're going there. So mindfulness is a basic human ability to be fully present in this moment, now, aware of where we are, what we're doing, and we're not reactive, we're not overwhelmed. We are sitting in our seat of consciousness, and you are present in the present moment now. And you're not letting your mind wander to the past, or if it does, you bring it back. And you're not letting it wander to the future. If it does, you bring it back. Okay? It's being present. It's being aware of your thought forms. Did you know that you're not your thoughts? I didn't know that. It's becoming aware of your thought forms and realizing you're not your thoughts. You are the witness of your thoughts. This is Zen Buddhism here, my friends. It helps you also be aware of what thought forms cycle over and over and over in your mind, plaguing your mind, right? Making you play small or scared or act like a victim or engage in blame stories, all of which steal you from the present moment, right? When I started this practice, I realized that my thought forms of not enough money, I have to do this all myself. I can't trust others. The world is not safe. I'm a victim of others. I'm not free. This will never end. They just kept going over and over and over and over and over. And then I just acted out that narrative. There are many, many, many benefits to mindfulness. And in fact, they're evidence-based mindfulness. You can find papers on this stuff. Among the benefits, it increases resilience, reduces stress, helps manage chronic pain, increases insight and awareness and cognitive flexibility, makes you less reactive, increases compassion and empathy, and it makes your butt look cute. It is a quality that we all possess. It's not something that you conjure up. You just have to learn how to access it, and you access it through practice. Practice is what you do with your time so you can free yourself from yourself, right? There's many ways to do it. Breath work, meditation, yoga. Some people find it in nature. Some people find it in sports. Some people find it in music. There's no wrong way. But it does require practice and discipline. But it's discipline that leads to blisscipline. It leads to bliss, right? Blisscipline. And the thing is you have a sovereign right and capacity. You have the capacity to hold dominion over your attention. And how you exercise that right will determine whether repetitive, unhelpful thought forms reign in your mind, or if you consciously decide what you'll let into your awareness, right? If you've been practicing a set of unhelpful thought forms for a while, such as complaining or worry or being pessimistic or fearful or judgment of others, right? It may take a little time to rewire your synapses and change the trajectory of your perception. I like to use the analogy of a cruise ship, right? Cruise ship, your mind is like a cruise ship. And even when you change the direction of the way you're going, the cruise ship itself only goes like that, right? You're not in a skiff that just goes woof. You're in a cruise ship, and it takes time to change your trajectory. But practice leads to a changed mindset, which leads to a new way of life. I promise. Okay. So those are my two big ones, self-care and mindfulness. Get to those whichever way you can. All right. Now we have this guy. This is called the 4 R's strategy that was created by Cinda Hilton Rushton and Kathleen Turner. It's a tool for nurses that helps them sort through situations that can cause moral distress. And I think you can also use it to sort through situations that cause compassion fatigue. And there's 4 steps. Number 1, recognize. Number 2, release. Number 4, reconsider. Number 3, reconsider. Number 4, restart. Okay, so let's go through each of these. And you can find this online. It's kind of everywhere. People do different things with this tool, but I think it's a really nice tool that we can use also in veterinary medicine as well. So the first step is to recognize the situation, whatever situation is causing moral distress or compassion fatigue, for what it is. So you have to be aware of the complexities of the situation, the patient, the client, the care team, including what each person wants to happen and the emotions that can affect their perspectives. So a team member's first thought when they walk into an exam room may be that the situation reminds them of a past similar experience. There may be moral residue or samskara present. There may be a temptation to shortchange the complexities of that whole situation. We prejudge people based on our past lived experience. If you aren't aware of it, it just happens automatically. It's a mental shortcut, right? The problem is that's an old narrative. That's an old story. It doesn't apply to the current moment, and it's probably going to hurt you more than help you. And as much as you are tempted to bring in old stories into the present moment, resist the urge to do so, right? Really, really important part. The second important part about recognizing is understanding that in any interaction, there are multiple perspectives present. And if you are providing a service for a client, your perspective is not the most important one. That tends to rub a lot of people the wrong way. And if you're in your ego, if your ego's running the show, then you are rubbed the wrong way. But that's information you can use, because in truth, unless you are aware of what's going on, it's hard to get into the perspective of the other person. Think about it. This is a perfect example. Here we have somebody who sees 6, another person who sees 9. Put it into the veterinary professional. One person sees an animal that needs a blood transfusion. The other person sees an animal that needs a rabies and a nail trim, right? Different perspectives. Who's right? Who's wrong? So in order to make room for other people's perspectives, you need that in order to gain information about the situation. And this is where I come back to using empathy in the right way. We as veterinary professionals are really good at the emotional response. We're really good at feeling bad about things. We feel bad that the client doesn't have enough money. We feel bad about the diagnosis. We feel bad that they're a single mom. We feel bad, we feel bad, we feel bad. That's not helping us. It's not helping you. You have to engage in perspective taking, which is a cognitive exercise. And you have to imagine what that person is thinking and feeling and how that's going to affect how they operate in the current moment. The best way to do that is to ask open-ended questions, invite story from your client, and really listen. Develop the skill of listening. I don't have a lot of time to go into that. But that is an important part of this whole recognition, okay? The second thing is to release. I grew up in AA, so I am well-versed in the Serenity Prayer. So consider what you can change and what you can't. You have to learn to let go of the need to control the outcome and instead control the only thing you really can, which is yourself, right? I love this slide because it says when you can't control what's happening, challenge yourself to control the way that you respond to what's happening. That's where your power is, right? And that's really hard when you're really, really attached to the outcome or you know that you're right? But it's so important to let go to the attachment to the outcome for your own mental and emotional wellness. This is the pathway to peace, my friends. Letting go of your attachment to the outcome takes courage. You stop resisting the current situation, which is a giant waste of your energy, by the way. You stop exhausting yourself by trying to control everything, and you choose to be happy no matter what. And I had a phrase in practice when I was practicing, when I was surrounded by people who wanted to stick their emotional monkeys on me, or were doing things that I didn't like, or just not acting in a way, they weren't living up to my expectations of how they should behave, right? I said, not my circus, not my monkeys, not my circus, not my monkeys. I have enough monkeys of my own, thank you very much. I deserve to feel good. And more than that, I need to feel good to continue to provide service to all of the other people who need it. So consider what would happen if you let go of your past experiences, your preconceived notions, your judgments about clients. You let go of what the client chooses to do. You let go of how the client chooses to express themselves in their grief, frustration, or anger. You let go of your frustrations with staffing shortages, angry clients, not enoughness, and fear, right? That shit is heavy. Just put it down, and view your world from a fresh perspective, clear of all that negative mental energy. And in case you think you can't, well, I challenge you to listen to the words of this guy, Viktor Frankl, clinical neuropsychologist from the 1940s, and oh, by the way, Holocaust survivor. And he says, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances and to choose one's own way, right? When everything else has been taken, you still have this mental choice, and it can mean the difference between a resilient comeback or a bitter devastation. Okay, I feel like I have prepared too much material yet again, but here we go. So the next thing is reconsider. Once you have let go, you need to build a new mindset about it, right? You need to reframe. And there's a way to do that. First of all, you have to be open to fresh perspectives and understand that everybody understands each other's perspective, right? So let's talk about cognitive reframing. Cognitive reframing is a technique that you use to shift your mindset so you're able to look at a situation or person or relationship from a different perspective. The hardest part with this is letting go of your current firmly held opinions about this situation, right? And being willing and flexible to consider a different angle or a different take, right? This is often used in cognitive behavioral therapy. And if this is a big struggle for you, it is helpful to have the assistance of a therapist to start doing this work, okay? But the concept is built upon the idea that we always have a choice about how we respond to any situation. Remember the words of Viktor Frankl. So one way to do that, a powerful way to do that, is to ask empowering questions. So many people are confused. When we are confronted with adversity, we've been conditioned, trained, programmed, whatever you want to call it, to ask disempowering questions. Questions like, why me? Why is this happening? What's wrong with me? Who is to blame, right? So these questions are disempowering because they create excuses, they create blame stories, they take your power, they make you a victim of someone else, and they take your power and they put it outside of you, right? That's called an external locus of control, where life is happening to you. So let's get this straight once and for all, okay? No matter what your political party or the news media tells you, blame stories are no longer serving us. They're not. They just serve to keep us angry, disempowered, and stuck. In contrast, empowered, resilient humans have a sense of agency, which is defined by the dictionary as a person through which power is used or something is achieved. It can be described as developing an internal locus of control, an idea that life is happening by you, not to you. So if you find that you don't typically operate from this mindset, the way to start developing a sense of agency is to ask empowering questions. So instead of asking, why me? Why is this happening? And who is to blame? Ask, here's hard. Okay, ready? What good is here that I presently cannot see? What gift is trying to be birthed into my life right now? What is trying to emerge, right? And then you pause and you listen, because the answer is inside of you. And you know the question's empowering because the answer makes you feel lifted up, not down. Remember, your life is just the outpicturing of your chronic inquiry, conscious or unconscious. So ask the right questions. You can even start your day. Like, you don't even have to use these empowering questions just when you run up against challenges. You can use them to frame your day from the very beginning. So when you get up in the morning, when I get up in the morning, I ask myself 3 things. How can I grow today? How can I give today? And how can I celebrate today? And then when I've answered those questions, I know that I have had a successful day. And that successful day leads up to a series of successful days that lead to a series of successful life. You just have to be willing to ask different questions. There's some more tools I have for you. I know I'm running out of time. Okay, the What Went Well journal. This one is great when you're really struggling to try and come up with things that went well in your day. So this is helpful for cognitive reframing. So I always start with a value statement. My value comes from who I am and not what I do. Growth mindset statement. Anything that happens today is in my best interest and an opportunity to learn and grow. And then I write out 15 to 20 things I did well or experienced as positive. And they don't have to be big things. The sunrise was beautiful. My pants fit today. I drank 2 liters of water. I helped that pet. That client, I smiled at them. You know, just little things, right? And if you can't get to 15 to 20, do as many as you can and do another one the next day, right? So this is really, really helpful to start rewiring your brain to look for the good, because our brains are wired to look for the bad. It's an evolutionary thing that we are wired to look for bad things because they're threatening, but now that's all we look for. So we have to rewire. The other thing that helps rewire is gratitude. Okay, I know I sound ridiculous, but when it was really black, like 8 months ago, I woke up in the morning and I said, before I complain about one thing or think one bad thing or look at my phone, I'm going to think of 5 things I'm grateful for. And it was running water, electricity, the fact that my legs were working. I mean, I had to start really, really small. So gratitude practice rewires your brain. So at night before I go to bed, I think about all the beautiful things that happened during the day. And I think about 5 things that I'm grateful for. And then as soon as I wake up in the morning, I think about 5 things that I'm grateful for, right? And then when I'm tempted to go negative, then I realize I stop, I pause, I go within, and I realize I don't want to feel bad. And instead I flip the script and I harvest the good out of something, even if it's bad. So that is another incredibly important technique. The last part is this restart, okay? The restart. And this is for moral distress, right? So these are the questions, once you've gone through these other things and you're recentered, I can handle this. Now you can ask the questions about what you want to do about this particular situation, right? So here is a series of questions to ask yourself about the things that are causing you difficulties. And if it's not important or it's not strong to you, then let it go, right? Let it go. Because if you're not invested in becoming an activist on this particular situation, then it's just going to serve to drive you crazy. Okay, so that's the last one. And I know I'm hurrying through this, but I just wanted to make sure to get through to the end of the slides. So last thing I want to just tease you guys about a little bit is I have been made aware that Merck is working with NAMV to create an idea about certified well-being practices. And it's kind of like the certification for fear-free, but instead of fear-free for pets, this is, hey, we have done all of these things to benefit the health and wellness of our employees, and you want to come work here because of that. So I would stay tuned for that, be on the lookout for it next year, because that may be a good tool and a strategy that you could use for your practice. Okay. All right. So last things last. In the handout, there is on the last page, there are an opportunity for you where you get to apply your knowledge, because knowledge is not applied is useless. And G.I. Joe said that knowing is half the battle, but if you don't take action, then you're still going to lose the battle, right? So I want you to think about what we've talked about. And I want you to pick one thing that you can do, one thing you can focus on for the next month for you, for your own resiliency. What is one thing that you can do that will help you increase your resilience? I know I've given you 1,000 tools, but I want you to pick one. And then I want you to focus on it for a month, because it takes that long to build those habits. And then there's also a space in your handout for one thing that you can pick or you can do for your organization that will help increase the mental and emotional wellness of the organization. In your handout, there's a whole list for you to pick from. You can adapt from what we talked about in this presentation, but I want you to apply that one thing in the next month. If you are a leader, you have a right and a responsibility to do this, okay? And if you're not certain what you want to do, don't feel like you have to pick something right now, but pick something before the end of the day, right? And make that commitment to yourself to be able to make these positive changes, because everything I've said is completely useless unless you use the knowledge. Training the brain is just like any other muscle, and you have to practice, right? A couple of other thoughts when you're building your new mindset that's more supportive of resilience. Make sure you're not being unknowingly sucked into the negative mental and emotional patterns of others. Jim Rohn says you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So ask yourself, are those people supportive of a positive, resilient mental space, or are they dragging you down? Okay, do well to mind your company. Mind the media that you consume. And yes, I am talking about news and what was previously known as Facebook. And then when you're tempted to react negatively, stop, pause, go within and ask yourself, is this thing really worth destroying my mental peace over? I have a rule. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, I don't give it more than 5 minutes. And all of this is self-discipline that leads to mental and emotional bliss. Remember, blissipline. So please, please, please do the work. You are worth every second you invest into yourself. And then all of this, my friends, all of this is designed to help you become one thing. You ready for it? Here it is. Unwithable. Yeah, I see it. I see it in you. When you are so truly at peace with and in touch with yourself that nothing anyone says or does bothers you and no negativity or drama can touch you. It's possible. Okay, that is all I have. And I do sincerely apologize, because I feel like, Judy, I feel like I took up all my time.
You know what? There's still 80 people holding strong. So if anybody has questions that would, that they'd like to send in for Dr. Wooten right now. We can do a couple Q&A. And of course, like if anybody has questions, you can always email them to me and I will get them in touch with Dr. Wooten after the webinar. So, just opening up the floor for anybody that has questions. Okay, so we already have a couple. Well, actually, the first one I wanted to ask you was somebody had asked way earlier in the webinar. They were wondering about your designation, your credential of CBJ. Do you want to just kind of give a brief overview of what exactly that is? Because I found that interesting.
Sure enough, and other people already answered it, which is awesome. It's a certified veterinary journalist. So it's a series of it's like my little board certification to be able to be certified to speak to the media about animal health related conditions. So I actually know a lot about journalism and media through that whole experience. So yeah, that's what that thing is.
Awesome. All right. And then let's see, there's lots of comments coming in. I gotta scroll through everything. Let's see. Elizabeth was asking if you can share the slide with the comment about controlling what you can and not the outcome.
There you go. Oh, Angela, thank you. Thank you. I am super passionate about this. I'm just okay, what can I do? So in answer to your question, yeah, Judy, this will be recorded so they can share it with staff members, correct?
Yes, definitely. So just so everybody knows that's still on, after this webinar later today, you will be receiving a link to a recording of this webinar. So you'll be able to share that link with your team. We'll also include in that email a link to the handout, just in case you didn't bookmark it or you lost it or, whatever that is, so that you can print it out and fill it out, have the rest of your team have one, fill it out. But yeah, this is a lot of great information. Robin's asking if this will be one in a series or monthly or weekly. So it would be great to have a little emotional support group with Dr. Wooten. I would love that. But yeah, so I mean, I am always looking for suggestions. As you exit the webinar, you will receive a survey just to give me some ideas on more topics. But I have loved working with Dr. Wooten on this, so I would love if you would come back sometime in 2022 to host another webinar. But yeah, good question, Robin. This was really great. Okay.
One other thing, I see Stephanie's. I've seen children cry when coming out of euthanasia makes me cry and even have a hard time letting go. I remember and picture it for days. Oh, girl. So thank you, first of all. Same thing, same here, right? I mean, I'd be crying more than the family sometimes. And I might cry right now because I even have pictures of those experiences myself. And that's okay. That is part of the emotional beauty. That is part of you sharing your heart with these people and honoring the passage of this animal and understanding how difficult this is for little kiddos, right? So the thing is you have to just let it flow. When it comes, you have to let it flow. And some people will disagree with me, but I used to get the highest marks for bedside manner because I was real with my clients. And I would tell them, okay, we're going to do this and it's going to be hard and you may see me crying and that's okay. And we can cry together. And then we would hug. And if you feel like those images are imprinted on your mind afterwards, that's trauma. Right. And so that is something that can haunt you afterwards. And you need to get a couple of tools and the psychologists call it resourcing of how to have that energy and emotion of that experience move through you and not resist it. Right. Let it move through you and then let it go. Right. And so I would definitely recommend talking to a therapist about this because, again, not a mental health expert, just a fellow feeler. And I would say, definitely don't let that continue to traumatize you. I have a friend who's a judge, a criminal court judge, and she would see cases. This is a trigger warning. Okay. With dead babies. She called them the dead baby cases. And I'm like, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with this? And she said, honestly, Sarah, I walk and I walk and I walk until it moves it from here back to here, and then out. So that's her way that she is made to cope with it. So definitely get yourself some resources and keep being that big-hearted feeler. You never know who you're going to impact through that kindness that you're giving to your clients.
Yeah. And then we'll have one more question and then we'll wrap up. But Rachel was asking, how do you not dwell on small mistakes that you make in a practice beyond deep breathing and being in the moment?
Yep. So great question. Number one, realize your brain has been wired that way. Our brains are rubber to good experiences and glue to negative experiences. Hence the whole title of this presentation, Rubber, Not Glue. And the reason being is because in the past, mistakes could have meant death to you or your loved ones, right? If you mess up and the crop fails, or the lion gets in, or the neighboring tribe attacks, you die. So your brain is wired to focus on that. The problem is that we have this outdated evolutionary protection system in our limbic mind. This is part of our limbic mind that is hindering us. And you have strong neural connections supporting it. So you have to rewire your brain through using the tools that I taught you, okay? And the most important one, I think, is this guy. Okay, because right now you're wired to dwell on it. So you have to rewire and you have to practice it. You have to do this for a while. And it says 6 months. You do this for 6 months, you will be a totally different person. So that is my recommendation for that.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Yeah, so lots of great comments. Again, thank you, Dr. Wooten, for coming on and giving this. I thoroughly enjoyed this this presentation, and I know that especially with the holidays coming up, it is important for everybody to take some time for some serious self-care. And so I hope that everybody kind of got a lot out of this. Again, just as a reminder, you're going to be getting an email later today that will have the link to the recording and a link to the handout. So we're not going to leave you hanging. You're going to get all of that information so that you can share it with your team and learn to be a little bit more mindful and a little bit more kinder to yourselves. So thank you again, Dr. Wooten. See everybody next month. We're going to have a very special guest. You're not going to want to miss it. So just want to put a little suspense out there so everybody can hear that. But keep your eyes peeled after Thanksgiving for an announcement and via email and social media. But we will see you again in our next webinar series next month. So thank you again.
Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful day.
All right.